welcome to the Bob Dutko Show. We'll kind of wind down this news hour, news and politics. The Detroit Free Press, I mentioned this earlier when we were talking with Senator Colbeck on the show, but the Detroit Free Press editorial board wrote this piece about Donald Trump's proposals to his executive orders to build a wall and start defunding sanctuary cities. And I want to read to you a little bit of this Free Press editorial. And this goes to what I was talking about before, how liberals tend to take Republican positions and exaggerate them and blow them up through hyperbole into something that's way more ominous sounding than it really is. Here's what they say, quote, headline, Trump immigration proposals are a moral stain. The story goes on to say, Trump has directed the Department of Homeland Security to begin work on a wall along the U.S.-Mexican border, strengthened immigration and custom enforcement efforts to deport illegal immigrants, and promised federal grant money from sanctuary cities that offer safe harbor to illegal immigrants. That's just Trump's latest. Already this week, the president worked to hobble the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, stop U.S. funding to organizations that counsel women on the option of abortion, withdrawn from the Trans-Pacific Partnership, and peddled new falsehoods about voter fraud. Trump's vision for American immigration, egged on by a slew of right-wing lawmakers, is an attack on America and American values, on undocumented residents, sure, but also on the millions of American immigrants here lawfully. This kind of targeted enforcement marks out non-white Americans, regardless of immigration status, as different, other, suspect. It's a clear demarcation of who Trump and his cohort consider real Americans. Such policies aren't just hateful, they're ineffective. And then goes on to talk about how it wouldn't work anyway. A wall wouldn't keep people out. Goes on to say, Trump gained a lot of his support by manipulating truth about America's immigration challenges, by painting a picture of Latino and Muslim immigrants as broadly leeches and potential terrorists. That's the bigoted fear he tapped into. Then there are Trump's threats towards sanctuary cities, cities that have adopted policies shielding undocumented immigrants from federal immigration enforcement. I mean, you read stuff like this, and you think to yourself, wow, this sounds like Donald Trump is being pretty racist and heavy-handed. And folks, I want you to stop and think about something a moment here. What are Donald Trump's two actions this week that are causing all of this incredible outrage? Action number one, starting the process of getting a wall built. Action number two, starting the process of defunding sanctuary cities. Now, let's explore both of these for a moment, honestly. Building a wall. Why is building a wall a bad thing? What's the controversial thing about building a wall? If you can try to stop the people from coming over here illegally, why is that bad? You say, well, a wall won't work, it won't stop everybody. No, I know that, but it will at least reduce the amount of people coming over here. Plus, you got to remember, folks, when illegal immigrants come into this country, many of them, not all, but many of them are also bringing over hundreds and hundreds and even thousands of pounds of drugs, of narcotics, of heroin, and all kinds of other drugs. You do realize that drugs are flooding into the United States from Mexico on a daily basis. Well, a wall makes it a lot more difficult to get giant containers and crates of drugs over the United States, into the United States. It's a lot tougher to get them over a wall or under a wall. It's a lot easier to just drive them across the border in trucks, which are happening all the time. But you can't drive a truck through a wall, and you can't take a truck up a ladder and over a wall. So you will reduce. You're not going to eliminate it, of course, completely, but you will reduce the effort to bring these kind of illegal drugs into this United States. So why is that a bad thing? How is that possibly considered controversial? Now, in all fairness, if liberals, if their only criticism of the wall was, we don't think it'll be effective, so we think it's a waste of taxpayer money. If that was their only argument, we don't think the Mexican government's going to pay for it, we think the taxpayers are ultimately going to get stuck with the bill, and therefore we don't think it's worth spending $25 billion for a wall. If that's all they argued, then that would be fine. Then we can have a fair debate about that. Problem is, folks, that's not what the left is arguing. The left is arguing that building a wall is tantamount to being xenophobic, racist, mean-spirited, anti-immigrant in general, which just isn't true. But then you get to the issue of sanctuary cities, defunding sanctuary cities. Well, just stop and think about this a moment, folks. You realize what sanctuary cities are. Sanctuary cities are, in essence, cities that are saying we are defying the federal government and we are refusing to cooperate with the federal government regarding criminals that are illegal immigrants. So you want to make sure, here's what I mean by liberal Democrats using exaggeration and hyperbole, okay? In cities all across the country, you have illegal immigrants, people that are here illegally, okay? And of the people that are here illegally, many of them are just minding their own business, trying to live their lives as best they can, but they're still here illegally. They're not supposed to be here, right? Those people are being left alone for the most part. However, some of the illegal immigrants that are here are committing crimes, additional crimes. They're robbing places, they're burglarizing, they're committing additional crimes. When they commit a crime, they're arrested and they go to jail. So now they're sitting in jail. So now the police, the authorities in San Francisco or in New York or any of the other sanctuary cities around the country, they realize we have a criminal, and this criminal is here illegally. Well, here's what the federal law says. The federal government, immigration and customs enforcement, they are supposed to be notified by cities when cities have a criminal in jail who happens to be here illegally. The city is supposed to, by the order of the federal government, notify the federal government, hey, we got somebody here that needs to be deported because they're not just an illegal immigrant, they're an illegal immigrant who's committing additional crimes. And then what the federal government does is say, okay, thank you very much, we'll come down and pick them up. Well, the sanctuary cities, here's what they say. When we have somebody in jail who committed a crime and they're here illegally, we're not going to tell the federal government. We're not going to inform them. We're not going to cooperate with the federal government. We're just going to go ahead and release them from jail back out onto the street. That's what sanctuary cities do, folks. This is why what Donald Trump is saying to these sanctuary cities is you can't do that anymore. You have to follow federal immigration laws. If you have somebody that's committing additional crimes in your community, they're supposed to be deported. You're supposed to notify the federal government so we can come and take that person and deport them. But the sanctuary city mayors refuse to do it. Want to know why? Because they're liberal Democrats and they're pandering for the Hispanic vote. They're making Republicans look like a bunch of evil people trying to tear apart families. And Democrats are trying to get as many Hispanic and Latino voters voting for them as possible. And this is a great way to do it. Because chances are that person who's here illegally and committed an additional crime, well, that person very likely has friends and family that maybe are here legally, that are also Latino, who will also vote, and who will appreciate the fact that the Democrats are the ones that are saying, hey, we're not going to send our cousin, they're not going to send our cousin back even though our cousin committed additional crimes. So what it does is it buys more votes for the Democrats from others in the Latino communities. But here's the problem. Those people keep committing crimes against other citizens in those communities of the sanctuary cities, like Kate Steinle. Kate Steinle was gunned down and murdered, and she died in the arms of her father by an illegal immigrant who had come to the United States, committed crimes, been deported 6 times, and on his 7th time back, committed this crime of murder. He should have been in jail for coming back over the border even one time. If you deport somebody and they come back again, Kate's law says you go to jail for 5 years. That would discourage illegal immigrants who commit crimes and get deported from coming back over here and trying it again, wouldn't it? But the Democrats are opposed to Kate's law because they're pandering for Hispanic votes. But amazingly, the left keeps painting Donald Trump as oh, this is just so wrong what he's doing to poor immigrants in this country. CNN ran a headline. CNN's running a headline right now that says that Sanctuary city mayors vow to protect immigrants. Vow to protect immigrants, even in City Hall if they have to. What CNN's not telling you in the headline is